It is June 632 AD. The Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, is on his deathbed. But this isn't a story about old age or a simple sickness. In his final moments, he turns to his wife, Aisha, and describes his agony with the chilling precision of a medical examiner. "I can still feel the pain from that food I ate at Khaybar," he says. "And right now, it feels as if my aorta is being cut by that poison." His own words create a 1,400-year-old cold case, a death sentence delivered 4 years late. This isn't just history, it's a forensic blueprint for how a system can be compromised long before its final, catastrophic collapse. But how can a poison take 4 years to kill? To understand the collapse, we have to analyze the initial attack. We must go back to the scene of the crime. To understand that feeling, the sensation of an aorta being severed, we have to go back to the scene of the crime, not to the moment of death, but to the moment the poison first entered the system, 4 years earlier. The year is 628 AD. Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, has just secured a fragile truce with his rivals in Mecca. For a strategist, peace on one border means opportunity on another. His attention turns north, to the oasis of Khaybar. This wasn't just sand and a few palm trees. Khaybar was a fortress, a lush green jewel stitched into the harsh fabric of the desert, irrigated by a complex system of dams and wells. It was a self-sufficient ecosystem of wealth and power, defended by multiple strongholds. For the nascent Muslim state in Medina, Khaybar was both a strategic prize and a persistent northern threat that had to be neutralized. The siege was inevitable, and it was brutal. When the final fortress fell, the conquest was complete. The terms of surrender were not just about laying down arms. They were about a fundamental shift in the system. The Jewish tribes of Khaybar, the architects of this desert jewel, were now subjugated. They were forced to hand over 1/2 of their entire harvest every year to the conquerors. This wasn't just a tax, it was a daily physical reminder of their defeat. A seed of deep, corrosive resentment was planted in the soil of Khaybar, watered by humiliation. But resentment is an abstract energy. It needs a focus. It needs a plan to become a weapon. And as we're about to see, that seed was about to blossom into a single, targeted, and meticulously calculated act of revenge. That weapon didn't arrive on the tip of a spear. It was carried on a platter, presented as a peace offering. In the tense quiet that follows a conquest, a local woman named Zaynab, Bint al-Harith, steps forward from the defeated. She brings a gift for the victors, a whole roasted sheep, glistening and presented as a symbol of surrender and hospitality. In the middle of the conqueror's camp, it looks like a fragile truce taking its first breath. But this was no random gesture of peace. Let's put this under the data lens. This was intelligence work. Zaynab had made quiet inquiries beforehand, asking a simple question: what is the Prophet's favorite cut of meat? The answer came back: the shoulder. And so it was in the shoulder of the sheep that she concentrated a lethal dose of a fast-acting poison. The trap is set. The meal begins. The atmosphere is relaxed. The guards are down. One of Muhammad's companions, a man named Bishr ibn al-Barra, takes a large piece of the meat and eats freely, celebrating the victory. Muhammad reaches for his preferred cut, the shoulder. He takes a single bite and stops. Something is wrong. The taste is alien. He spits it out immediately, but in that same instant, his eyes lock on his companion. Bishr freezes, a look of confusion, then agony. He collapses. One moment, a man celebrating. The next, a body on the floor. It's brutal, undeniable proof. The weapon is real, and it is lethal. Muhammad has dodged the fatal dose, but the poison is a key. It only needs a moment's contact to turn the lock. A sublethal, but system-altering quantity has found its way into his body. The immediate threat is over. But a toxin is now in the system, a silent poison, with a very, very long memory. A man is dead. The target is poisoned. The trap, from a tactical perspective, is a complete success. The only remaining question now is the architect. Who is the woman behind this perfect assassination? And what is her story? The architect of the attack is a woman named Zaynab Bint al-Harith. She is captured almost immediately. There is no struggle, no attempt to hide. She is brought before Muhammad, the man she just tried to kill, and the room is thick with silence. He looks at her. He asks her a single question. Why? And she answers. Instantly, there is no denial, no plea for mercy. Her confession is as cold and as sharp as the poison she used. It's a statement of account. She looks directly at him, and the words come out, measured, deliberate. The statement of an executioner, not a victim. You killed my father, my uncle, and my husband. You took from my people what you took. This is the first layer. Personal, brutal revenge. But then, she pushes it further. She elevates the entire event beyond simple vengeance. Her next words reframe everything. I said to myself, if he is a prophet, he will be informed. If he is a king, we will be relieved of him. In that moment, an assassination attempt becomes a test of divinity, a theological challenge delivered at the tip of a poisoned blade. The stakes are no longer just life and death. They are legitimacy, authority, and the very nature of power. For her crime, Zaynab is executed. Her story ends there. But her question doesn't die with her. Prophet or king? It hangs in the air, unanswered. But before we can even begin to confront that, we have to follow the physical evidence. We have to trace the forensic path of the poison she left behind. So we follow the forensic path, and when we put the evidence under the data lens, the first thing we see is not a sudden catastrophic failure. It's a slow, systemic compromise. Muhammad survives the initial poisoning at Khaybar. To his followers, it might have looked like a miracle, a testament to his divine protection. But from a clinical perspective, this wasn't the end of the attack. It was the beginning of a new internal war. For the next 3, almost 4 years, he is a man living with a ticking clock inside him. He continues to lead, to govern, to pray, but he's doing it while fighting an invisible battle that no one else can fully see. The poison didn't leave, it integrated. We see the evidence of this struggle in the historical records. He sought out treatments, like cupping therapy, applied directly to his shoulder, the very point where he first felt the poison enter his body, an attempt to draw out a toxin that was already circulating deep within his system. It's a logical response, but it's like trying to patch a single pipe when the building's entire foundation is chemically compromised. The damage was already systemic, irreversible, but the most crucial forensic clue is more subtle. It's more personal. The narrations tell us that for the rest of his life, he could feel a trace of the poison in what the texts call his uvula. Imagine that. In the middle of giving a sermon or in a moment of quiet reflection, a phantom burn, a constant physical reminder in the back of his throat. It's the system's error message flashing over and over. A ghost of the meal that was slowly, patiently killing him. The poison had never left. For 4 years, it was a constant simmering presence. A slow war fought in the quiet of his own body. But even the slowest poisons have a deadline. They build towards a final catastrophic event. So the question becomes, how did this internal war finally reach its devastating conclusion? That final, devastating conclusion arrives in the year 632. The slow, internal war is over. The catastrophic event is here. Muhammad is consumed by his final illness, burning with a fever so intense that those around him can feel the heat through the blankets. He is so weak that when his companions help him walk, his feet just drag along the ground. The system is in total collapse. His friends, trying to rationalize what they are seeing, suggest it's a common chest infection, pleurisy. They're trying to fit this catastrophic failure into a familiar box. But he knows better. He immediately rejects their diagnosis. This isn't some random act of nature. This is the poison, the debt from a meal eaten 4 years ago, finally collecting in full. And then, in a moment of the most tragic symmetrical closure, a woman comes to his bedside. It's Bishr, the mother of the man who ate from the same poisoned lamb at Khaybar and died instantly. For 4 years, she has lived with the sharp, immediate grief of a mother whose son was stolen in a single moment. She looks at Muhammad weak and dying, and she doesn't just see a leader, she sees the other victim. The one who has been dying from the very same meal, just in slow motion. He looks back at her, and in his own words, he closes the 4-year loop that bound them together in tragedy. He tells her that they are both finally victims of the very same plate of food. At that moment, he says, he can feel his own body failing in the exact same way her son's did. This wasn't just a private moment of shared grief. This was his final, official testimony. His wife, Aisha, was there. She recorded his last forensic assessment of what was happening inside his own body. Let's put his own words under the data lens, he said. Oh Aisha, I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate at Khaybar, and at this time, I feel as if my aorta is being cut from that poison. My aorta is being cut. That's not poetry. It is a stunningly precise clinical description of a catastrophic cardiovascular event. The victim himself has just named the cause of death. The historical case file is closed. But for a forensic analyst, a testimony is not the end of an investigation. It's the beginning. A statement gives us direction, but it is not the weapon itself. We need to identify the agent, the exact noxious chemical compound, and then we must answer the most critical question. Does the science of that poison match the terrifying sensation of an aorta being severed from the inside? The evidence points to one clear suspect, a poison known to antiquity, but one we can now analyze with modern precision. Its name is aconite, also known as Wolfsbane. Let's put the symptoms under the pharmacological lens. First, we examine the initial contact. The historical accounts are precise. An immediate burning sensation in the mouth, a tingling and numbness that reportedly never fully left his uvula, even years later. Aconite is a potent contact poison. Its alkaloids attack the nerve endings on direct contact. This sensation is not a side effect. It is the poison's primary signature. The match is 1-to-1. Second, we look at the lethality. Here's how it works. Aconite is a violent cardiotoxin. It fatally disrupts the heart's electrical signals. A large dose, as ingested by Muhammad's companion Bishr, causes catastrophic cardiac arrest within minutes. His instant death is a textbook case of acute aconite poisoning. But a smaller sublethal dose, like the one Muhammad may have ingested before spitting it out, presents a different forensic timeline. It doesn't grant immunity, it inflicts a wound. The theory proposes that the poison caused permanent structural damage to the heart muscle itself, weakening the core of the system. And with that, the 1,400-year-old cold case appears to snap shut. Every piece fits. A poison that perfectly explains the immediate oral sensation, a mechanism that explains both the instant death of one man and the chronic decline of another. And a final logical conclusion. A heart, damaged years prior, finally failing under the simple stress of a high fever. It is a neat, satisfying, and forensically elegant solution. The Aconite Theory is a perfect fit. It feels correct, but a true forensic analysis never stops at the convenient answer. It has a professional obligation to run one final test, a control against the primary evidence. And this is the precise point where the compelling, elegant story you've just accepted completely collapses. A true forensic investigation has a professional obligation. It must stress test the convenient answer. And this is the precise point where that elegant theory, the story of aconite, develops a catastrophic structural failure. Let's put this under the data lens. There is a fatal flaw in this hypothesis. A flaw that isn't a matter of interpretation, but of hard science. Modern forensic toxicology is unequivocal on this point. Aconite is an exclusively acute poison. Its alkaloids are brutally fast-acting, they don't linger, they don't hide, they trigger catastrophic symptoms within minutes to hours. The body's response is immediate. Survivors of aconite poisoning clear the toxin. Their systems metabolize and expel it. There is no documented mechanism for it to lie dormant for years, before re-emerging to cause a fatal collapse. The poison doesn't sleep, it strikes, and then it is gone. The core of our theory, a single sublethal dose causing a fatal cardiac event 4 years later, is not just improbable, it is scientifically unsubstantiated. In the literature, there are no peer-reviewed cases that support such a delayed lethality. Not one. This is the crucial twist. We have two conflicting datasets. The historical narrative points one way. The hard science points in the complete opposite direction. The compelling story of the slow poison, the one that neatly explains every detail, is in fact just a story. The data does not support the diagnosis. So this brings us to a critical question. When the historical accounts point one way and modern science points another, which do you trust? A compelling story or the cold, hard data? This isn't just about a cold case. It's about the financial narratives you are sold every day. Let me know in the comments which one you'd bet your family's security on. So if this elegant story wasn't true, what was the point of this investigation? It's because the most important lesson here isn't in the poison, it's in the method. And that method is the key to protecting yourself from the flawed narratives you're sold every day. This 400-year-old story was never about solving a murder. It's about a method. It is about what you do when a compelling story collides with cold, hard evidence. Every day, you are sold compelling stories about your own life. Narratives that seem to explain why you feel slowly squeezed. Why the game feels rigged. These stories, just like the Aconite Theory we dissected, can feel incredibly satisfying. They offer a clear cause for your present-day financial pain. The most important lesson from this entire investigation is learning to apply the scientific twist. It is the discipline to put that story, any story, under the data lens. It's the courage to ask the one question that cuts through the noise. What is the actual mechanism here? Does the data truly support this narrative of long-term damage? This is the forensic framework you must apply to your own life. Before you accept that a policy poison from the past is the reason for the pressure on your family today, demand proof. Your job is to separate the compelling myth from the forensic evidence. Learning to make that distinction is how you protect your family's future. It's how you spot the hidden flaws in the narratives we are sold. It is how you disarm the real slow poisons of our time before they ever have a chance to take root. If you want more tools to see the world with this level of clarity, make sure you subscribe. We're just getting started.